Hey, good day, everybody. Paul Sterling here, coming to you from my backyard here in Carmel Valley, California. It's such a beautiful day. I thought I'd do this from the outside. I'd love to hear where you're calling in from. Yo, 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 I see you. Don't know who that is, just his Facebook user. But this is a live interactive communication call and is about communication secrets for couples. But these are communication secrets that anybody can use in any relationship. And let's just take a look. Oh, La Mesa, California. Hello from around the corner. This is going to be an intense 45 minutes to an hour. I have been doing this for years, over 25 years, coaching couples from around the world, coaching them to deal with issues like jealousy, betrayal, affairs, financial issues, broken agreements, lost intimacy, lost love, constant conflicts, not feeling heard, understood, and valued. Some of the toughest communication issues. And if you get communication wrong, it can wreck your relationship. If you get it right, it can turn your relationship around. Hi, Stu. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Leah. And let's just take a deep dive in here. By the way, I love it being interactive. Otherwise, it just feels like I'm talking to a screen. And I was once told that what we do is we teach what we need to learn, and I'm always needing to improve my communication skills. So it's one of the things I teach the most and get the most out of. So here we go into the deep dive. We want communication to feel like that, to feel like the joy of a young boy hitting a tennis ball maybe for the first time. We want it to be easy, open, loving, and we want these three things. Now, if you just stay for 2 seconds on this call, write this down. This is going to be amazing if you can feel heard, understood, and valued. Heard, understood, valued. I have taught communication. I've taught literally around the world, in China, Russia, Croatia, Bali, Hong Kong, around the United States, Mexico, Belize, and everywhere I go with clients from around the world, everybody wants the same thing. When they communicate, they want to be heard, understood, and valued. If you, when you communicate, want to be heard, understood, and valued, just put in "me too" or something else. I don't want to, this is not the Me Too movement, but I want that. You can just put in "I want that" if you want to be heard, understood, and valued. So, and I'm guessing almost everybody wants that. So what gets in the way? We're going to talk about that today. What gets in the way of you being heard, understood, and valued, or you hearing, understanding, and valuing your partner? So when you get it right, I'm going to slow down just a little bit. When we get it right, we speak with courage, compassion, and curiosity. And both of us feel heard, understood, and valued. We feel confident and know how to repair, because even when you totally love each other, you're going to hurt each other's feelings. You're going to hurt each other's, well, you're going to hurt each other. It's just going to happen. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be misunderstanding. There's going to be confusion, even when you totally adore each other. The key is learning how to repair, feeling confident in repairing. And I'll tell you a story about me kayaking, probably in a little bit, whitewater kayaking, because what gives you confidence, whitewater kayaking, is not avoiding getting flipped upside down, but it's being able to roll back up, to be able to turn yourself back over when you get flipped. And if you are communicating in any rough water, you're going to get flipped. The key is being able to roll back up and have the tools. Yes, the courage, compassion, and curiosity. So what happens when we feel confident, know how to repair, our communication builds trust and intimacy, and we are able to rebound in minutes. Now, if this is something that you want, this is actually rare in most couples that I work with. And I've worked with couples for over 25 years from around the world. Most couples have a hard time with this one. And often they don't rebound in minutes. It might take them days, weeks, months. So we want it to be easy, and it often feels like this. Can you relate? If you can relate, just put ICR, I can relate. That's, or just relate. And it feels like this. And this was my first marriage. I went through one marriage, 4 broken engagements. It was either become a monk or a master. And luckily, I had some amazing mentors. I ended up working for a guy named Tony Robbins. Many of you probably know him. I got mentored by another guy named Bob Proctor and Robert Kiyosaki and Byron Katie. So I was lucky enough to get mentored by some amazing people, and they helped me go from communicating in the wrong way to the right way. But here's what happens when we get it wrong. We don't feel heard, understood, or valued. And that causes us to get desperate and all sorts of desperate behavior. We either repeat ourselves again and again, we get louder, we withhold love and affection. It's embarrassing what I used to do. I could hold a grudge for a couple of weeks with my ex-wife. I would withhold love, affection, attention. And the harder I tried to make her feel bad about make her feel bad about hurting my feelings, the worse things got. I would end up tripping her trigger, and we ended up in these conflicts that lasted forever, that eroded trust, totally destroyed intimacy, wrecked our sex life. And it took days, weeks, months, years, and finally divorce. If you can relate to that one, let me know. Does that make sense? If we get it wrong, we end up in this downward spiral to communication hell. And they say communication is the problem, but it's not just communicating more, because sometimes the more we communicate, the worse it gets. It's how we communicate that makes a huge difference. So we're going to dive into that. And here's one of my mentors, a guy named Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. He's no longer with us, but I can look at my life before and after Tony Robbins. And Tony ended up being a huge catalyst for my change. And at one point, Tony hired me to come in and work with his inner circle. And that was the highest form of flattery for me. I was really touched that he trusted me that much. And he ended up doing my introduction. For a while, I was on his support staff, and I would introduce him, and here he was introducing me. Anyway, that was one of my mentors. Marshall Rosenberg was another one. And you might want to write this quote down. Stick it on your refrigerator, your mirror, wherever you want. But the normal outcome of most communication is misunderstanding. The normal outcome of most communication is misunderstanding. Hold on. Say it with me. The normal outcome of most communication is misunderstanding. Why is that so critical? Because if you think that something's wrong when there's misunderstanding, then there's a problem to be fixed. But if you go, oh, this is just part of the process of communication, we have to start by working our way through the misunderstandings. We're never going to get it perfect. Now, I have taught this communication tools in prison to prison inmates, and I've also taught it at Naropa University to the professors and to their staff. So anywhere from maximum security inmates, at-risk youth, to therapists, counselors, professors, their staff. And a lot of what I learned was a combination of what I learned from Marshall Rosenberg and something called nonviolent communication, plus Tony, plus um, Byron Katie, and a few others. So a tiny bit about me, and I think a lot of you know who I am, but some of you don't. I am the best-selling author of Argue Less, Love More. It was #1 for counselors, couples and family therapy, marriage, healthy relationships, and even dysfunctional relationships in Amazon. And it is, well, one of my friends from Hawaii, it's interesting, he's one of the wealthiest guys in Hawaii, one of the smarter guys in Hawaii also. And he got coached by me a little bit and read my book, and he said, "Oh, this is like street smarts. This book was written for couples, not for therapists or counselors. It's written in plain English. It's only about 100 pages long. It's about $20 on Amazon, $19.97. And it's easy to use, easy to apply. What I want to teach is communication tools that are at their best when you're at your worst." One other thing, I have a video on YouTube that when I made this slide, it was seen 5,800,000 times. It's now been seen 6.3 million times. And it's about how do you communicate in the bedroom. It's called Tantra Exploring Sacred Sexuality. So there are plenty of things I'm not very good at. You don't want me flying an airplane, drilling on your teeth, changing a tire, doing legal work. There's something that for the last 25 years, over 25 years, almost 30 years, I have focused on is what's it take to make relationships work. And one of the most important things is good communication. Now, how many of you have ever been to New York City? And what does this have to do with communication and relationships? Well, about 2 years ago, I was in New York City with my beloved, and we went down to the subway. And I am not a city person. I spent 18 years in Alaska as a commercial fisherman. And when I got down on the subway, it was easy to get lost because there's 840 miles of track, there's 472 stations, there's 27 subway lines. If you want to find your way around the subways, what do you need? You need a map. And so for the last 25 years, what I've tried to create is maps that help people figure out two things: where they are, where they want to go, and then how to get there. So where you are and where you want to go. Thank you. I love it that people are right there interacting. Thank you so much. That makes me feel connected to you. All right. So let's take a look at the map here. And what we want is a map that helps us with our communication. And it helps us get people to do one of two things. We communicate in a way that either causes people to lean in. Went to New York and was on the plane when Michael Spinks and he kissed my mouth. Wow. Cool. There's an event to remember. All right, back to the thing. So if you think about it, which one, when you communicate, do you want? Do you want your partner to lean in and feel connection, compassion, and cooperation, or do you want them to lean out, resistance, resentment, regret? So lean in or lean out. Let me know which one you want. And either one is available. And this tells you how effective your communication is. For me, I want lean in. I don't always get it, but I keep getting better and better at it. So here's some of the common triggers that causes people to get triggered. So lean in is what people want, at least what somebody said. So here are some of the things that trigger us. Affair, broken agreements, jealousy, lost trust. And by the way, when I get one that triggers you, what one of your biggest triggers, just type that in. I'd love to know what some of your biggest triggers are. For me, broken agreements, affairs, yep, those triggers. Um, Needs not being met, not feeling heard, lost trust, lack of intimacy, feeling ignored, neglect, abuse. Pretty much a lot of these can trigger me and trigger the people that I work with. All right, what's your top trigger? So the deal today is how can we deal with the triggers in a way that causes people to lean in, to want to know more, rather than to go into reaction. Would that be worthwhile? Would that be worth learning? By the way, I'm speaking with a little bit of a list because I just got one of my front teeth replaced, and I got I don't even know what they call it, but a little bit of a brace in my mouth, and it feels like I'm talking with a sock in my mouth or something. Okay, here we go. This is an interactive exercise. I can see you out there in Facebook land. I want you to do this exercise with me. It's going to be really helpful, and then I'm going to ask you questions about it. So put your hands together like this. And when I say go, what I want you to do is press really hard with your right hand. Ready, get set, go, press. No, press harder, press harder, press harder. Okay, stop. Where are your hands? So type in where are your hands. So if your hands are in the same place, put in same place. If your hands went way over to the left, put to the left. So they're either in one of two places. Same place or over to the left. Which one did they go? All right, here's the point that I'm trying to make here. Is that why most people, your hands are going to be in the eye? Because I said press really hard with your right hand. What did your left hand do? Press back. Did I say press back with the left hand? No. But as soon as the left hand felt like it was being forced, what did it do? Resist. Why is that critical in communication? Because in communication, as soon as somebody feels like they're being forced, what do? They resist and push back. So what I want to do is be able to give you a tool and a way of being that doesn't create resistance. And when you run into resistance, and if you were in the same place, you ran into resistance, what do you do with that? How do you enter their world so they feel heard, understood, and valued? Is this making sense? So this slide right here, and I don't know if you can take a picture of this slide, if you can, what you can do to capture that screen, but this is a critical slide because it's what do you do when you get triggered? And whoops, triggered. By the way, I was once told if you don't know how to spell a word in at least 3 different ways, you're not being flexible. So you'll see some real flexible spelling on my part here. What do you do when you get triggered? Now, this is going to be the embarrassing part of the call for me because I am an ex-commercial fisherman. I am 6'3". I'm 230 pounds, most likely, maybe more. And what did I do when I got triggered? In relationships, I would collapse. And what collapse means is lose, win. This is a picture of a puppy. We have a puppy. When a big dog runs up on the puppy would roll over, lay on his back, and go, I collapse, I give up. You win, I lose. And it was a way to protect. The puppy protects itself. I learned this growing up. This I'm going to call the trauma drama line. And I want to see where you fit in on this trauma drama line. This is when we're reactive. So why did I learn this pattern of collapsing as a small child? Because my brother was on the other side of it, and he had to win and I had to lose. I would collapse, he was combative, and he would beat me until I collapsed. Now, this is not me claiming, to be a big victim or anything like that. People had it a lot tougher than I did. It's just we get conditioned how to react when triggered under pressure. Do you go to this side? And you can look right now without getting too politically incorrect. There are a lot of politicians right now that either collapse or get combative. There's a very few that move up here to the third position, which is courageous. That's where you get curious, compassionate, courageous. So which one of these three do you want to have in your relationship? Is it fun to be in a relationship with someone who's combative? Not to me, but it's not fun also to be with someone who collapses. And it's not fun to collapse. And I've had to work on it. It's a muscle that we build and learn. And so where I'm headed on a regular basis, and it's a choice, it's a conscious choice, is to be courageous. And what does courageous mean? Courageous is when I reveal what's alive in me, what I'm feeling. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling disappointed. And start to talk about what's really alive in us. Down here, we pretend, no, I don't have any needs, nothing's alive. And over here, we're attacking. We're going to make it, I'm going to make you listen. So which of these three is what you want in your relationship? Do you want it to be collapsed, combative, or courageous? And when we're courageous, we're more resourceful. So the idea is to move up there. Now, here's what happens. There's a great book out by Stan Tatkin, and it's called Wired for Love. And when I read Stan's book, I modified what I got from him a little bit, but basically I got the 3 levels of triggering. And here's the 3 levels: alert, alarm, attack. So here's our normal level of awareness. Alert, we could be lying in bed and I hear clunk, clunk in the other room. And my brain goes, pay attention. I could be almost asleep and it goes, pay attention. So when I'm alert, it's basically pay attention. There could be something. And if I hear footsteps, I go up to alarm. And that when I'm in alarm, what I'm trying to figure out is there what? What is it that I'm looking for? Is there, what is it? Is there danger? So is there danger when I'm in alarm? If I perceive that there's danger, I hear footsteps, I see the doorknob opening and nobody else is in the house, there's danger. And I now move to my crocodile brain, Croc Brain, and it's attack. Now, the Croc Brain has 3 main things: fight, flight, or freeze. And what we want to do is make sure that in our relationship, somebody says something, our partner says something, we go to alert, and it's like, oh, was that an insult? Were they making me bad, stupid, wrong? Were they trying to trip my triggers? And then alert. We go to alarm. Is there an attack? Is there an emotional attack? Is there some danger? And so we're worried about that. And if we perceive it as an attack, or if we think we're in danger, the Croc Brain can't has limited thinking capacity. So here it is. You're either enemy or ally. There is no in between. You're either the enemy or ally. And if you're starting to defend yourself from your partner, withholding information, protecting yourself, you now see your partner as the what? The enemy. Now, here's the huge mistake people make. They think that they can use logic to talk the Croc Brain out of being in the attack mode. So when we're in the attack mode, here's how it goes. Alert, we can still be compassionate. When we're at alarm, we're cautious about what getting said. And when we get into the attack mode, it's combative. We now see them as the enemy. And what's important is once you're perceived that you're the enemy, almost anything you say can and what will be used against you. So what I want to do is give you two tools. One is how to catch it here. So that if you catch it here, it can avoid going up here. The second thing is I want to give you a tool when people are in this mode, when they're in their Croc Brain, what can you do to bring them back? So would that be helpful to know those two tools? Now, all right, the first one, if you're taming your triggers, I'm going to warn you not to use logic or reason with a reptile brain. Here's what you do. When somebody is triggered, they don't feel safe. And that is the major issue. Safety. So what do? You ask them a simple question. I'd love for you to repeat it after me. I'd love for you to type it in if you can. Honey, what do you need to feel safe right now? Because almost any other thing you do is going to make it worse rather than better. When you ask somebody, what do you need? And I want you to listen right now. If your partner came to you when you were upset, scared, angry, and they came to you and they went, honey, what do you need to feel safe right now? How would you react? I know for me, it calms me right down because what happens is I now know that they know what's going on for me, that I'm at this point triggered. And the most important thing for me is feeling safe again. So if you can do that, you can calm them down and get them back into their head or their heart. Now, that, by the way, can all of you use that? If you can, yes, I can. Just yes, I can. If you can ask that simple question, honey, what do you need to feel safe right now? Just put yes, I can, because I want you to walk away with some tools that you can use today. Now, I'm not telling you that in this 45 minutes or an hour, we're going to transform your habits, patterns, and beliefs around relationships and communication. But I do want to leave you with a couple of tools. This is tool number one. This is how to tame a trigger. This one will save your butt and make you and reconnect you with your partner. Tool number two, acorn versus oak tree. One of my friends is a fellow relationship coach who runs Love Coach Academy. His name is Scott Katamas. And Scott is the one who showed me this particular model. And this model is, let's do it a little bit different. So we have three different ones here. We have green. Whoops, I'm going to make it yellow. Would be too hard to read, but I'll put yellow. And red. So what happens is when you go to have a conversation, you want to set yourself up and your partner up to win. So just think of how well it would go if you just came home from work, your boss had yelled at you, you got a flat tire, and you got a speeding ticket because you were racing to get home. You walk in the door, and your partner says, honey, we need to talk about your spending habits. How well will that conversation go? Do you think that's going to go really well, or it's going to suck? I'm guessing it's going to suck. So you're trying to set yourself up, to win. A lot of times people set up to lose. They have conversation when somebody's not resourceful or they wait too long. So what happens, Scott came up with this code, green light, let's talk about it. Let's talk about spending. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about intimacy, sex, politics, health, whatever it is. Number 2 is yellow light. I'm feeling a little bit triggered. It's a little bit cautious. And so let's not, when it gets to yellow light, what it is that is a time to slow down, and go back to connection. So it's more connection, less content. So if I say yellow light, it means let's slow down. Let's remember that we still love each other. Let's stop talking about money for a minute and start remembering what we love about each other. So yellow light is slow down, reconnect, maybe less content, stop trying to prove a point, stop trying to be right. Red light is stop. It's too much. It's like in a James Bond movie where the James Bond is spun out and he's hanging on the edge of a cliff in his car. And if somebody comes by and touches the car, it's going to go over backwards. So if you say another word when you're at red light, there's going to be an upset. And see, this is really important. So when you're at red light, what you do is if somebody says red light, you stop mid-sentence, mid-word. It's about respecting each other, because your partner or you, if you're saying red light, you're no longer feeling resourceful, you're feeling reactive. And anything you say will make things worse. Is this making sense? Green light, let's go for it. Yellow light, need to slow down and reconnect. Red light, stop it. I may need a break. I may need some empathy. I may need just to be held. May need to go for a walk around the block. For me, I'm a mountain biker and a kayaker. If I can go for a mountain bike ride, I can come back and most likely be in green light again. Is this making sense? So if it makes sense, just type in makes sense. And now what I want to do is tell you how this all ties into the acorn and the oak tree. There was a book out there that said, don't sweat the small stuff. Okay, I'm going to admit something here. I have never read the book, but I think they're wrong. I think they're totally wrong, and I'll tell you why. I think it's really important to sweat the small stuff because it's easy to handle acorns. It's hard to handle oaks. Now, if an acorn fell on this guy's house, right here, acorn, no problem. What happened with the oak tree? Literally split the house in half. And see, what happens is if we don't deal with the little stuff, like it could be somebody didn't do the dishes. It could be the laundry. It could be we haven't had sex in a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. And it's starting to like hurt my feelings. I'm making up a story about it. So it's important to catch it when it's little, when it's an acorn, rather than waiting for it to be an oak tree. Because when it's an oak tree, it gets out of control really quickly. And it could be something silly. It could be like the laundry wasn't done and it's a 2-hour fight. So what we want to do is sweat the small stuff and set yourself up to win. And what we do at this house is go, honey, I've got an acorn. Can you hear it now? Because I'd like to clear it up because it's getting in the way. And when you have a bunch of acorns in your shoes, it gets in the way. Or you have acorns in the relationship, then there's a lot less intimacy. There's less desire for sex and connection because there's all this little stuff that's in the way. Now, what I'd love to hear is, what have you gotten from this so far? I'm about to give you another quantum leap. And I'd love to hear how different your relationship would be. What kind of an impact would it have on your relationship if you could catch the triggers when they're yellow light, or even be able to say red light before it becomes a big blow up? And when somebody really gets triggered and they're in their crocodile attack mode, what would it be like if you could help them feel safe again and reconnect? What do you need, honey? What do you need to feel safe again? How different would your relationship be? I know it would have made such a big difference in some of my earlier relationships. And if you can notice, which is your pattern: collapse, combative, or courageous. Now, courageous is a choice. Or combative is a way of reacting. To get courageous, curious, compassionate, that's always a choice. That's rarely the default mode, unless maybe you're the Dalai Lama or Mother Teresa or somebody, Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela. And even those people worked at it. So how different would your relationship be? And would it be worth learning these? Would it be worth mastering these? Would it be worth taking this on and making it a daily practice? If so, let me know. We're starting up a course here probably in September for people who want to learn how to communicate differently and resolve misunderstandings in minutes and clean up conflicts and be able to talk about one of the most vulnerable things we ever talk about, which is our precious needs. Yes, somebody say Martin Luther King was supposedly a womanized. There are so many people that make such a huge difference and have their dark sides, their shadow. Kennedy, it's like, and I'm going to be the first one. That's why I say 1 divorce, 4 broken engagements. We teach what we need to learn. So I look at my mentors and I don't expect any of them to be perfect, and look at the difference that they make. And it doesn't make some of their behavior okay, but it makes it understandable. All right. So here we go. We're going to take a dive into one other part of communication. Now, I literally just got back from Mexico, I think 2 days ago. I went down there to get my teeth worked on, and I had 2 teeth removed and 3 implants put in. And so it was a really intense event. And some of the people in the office spoke pretty good English. My Spanish absolutely sucks. I could hardly call it Spanish. I know 20 words or something. So we speak different languages. Now, everyone on this call speaks 3 different languages, at least. This is the language of the head, the language of the heart, the language of the hurt. And it's really important to know the 3 different languages. And somebody asks, how much did I pay for the implants? If you want to message me, I'll show you later and we can have that conversation somewhere else. I'll gladly talk to you about it. Anyway, communication, if we're communication from the head, that's all about reasoning. It's about logic, thinking, understanding. What are the facts? Who's at fault? What's right, wrong? Knowledge is key. Vulnerability is weakness. This is really critical. This tends to be a more masculine way of communicating. Now, we all have masculine and feminine, so I'm not saying male or female. This tends to be more masculine. When we're talking from the heart, it's all about relating. It's about love, connecting, feeling. Forget the facts. How do you feel? Vulnerability is the key. So it's like if I'm speaking English and they're listening in Spanish, what happens? It all gets lost in translation. So if somebody's speaking from their heart and somebody else is listening from their head, it all gets lost because all they're listening for is the facts. Who's right? Who's wrong? And down here, someone speaking from their heart is talking about their feelings. So if you think about it, if you want your relationship to work, you need to learn the language of the heart. You need to be able to listen from your heart and speak from your heart. Does that make sense? What about a partner who is not in touch with their feelings? How do you ask them to, it starts, okay, so this is a really good question. I'll actually answer that question in a second. So we have the head, which is about reasoning, the heart about relating, the hurt about reacting. And if you look at it right here, this is about loss, protection, safety. Who is the enemy? Where is the danger? How can I protect myself? Vulnerability is the enemy. Now, here, knowledge is key and vulnerability is the enemy. Here, vulnerability, strength, and power is the key and vulnerability is the enemy. And if you look at it, 2/3 of our automatic system is trying to fight with vulnerability. We want to know more. We want to reason more. We want to be right, or we want to be safe. And I'm going to tell you, this is the good news, bad news. Relationships. All right, hold on a second. Relationships aren't safe. The more you love somebody, the more vulnerable you're going to be, the more vulnerable you're going to feel. I'm sorry. There's a great quote that I use in a lot of my slides, and it says, ships are safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are for. Ships are safe in the harbor. That's not what ships are for. Your heart. I had one woman, when I told her what I did, she laughed uncomfortably for several minutes. And I'm like, what's going on? She said, oh, I haven't been in a relationship for 25 years because I have my heart broken. Now, she tried to make her heart safe, but that's not what her heart is for. Her heart is for loving. And if you love your kids, you're going to be vulnerable. You can't protect them from everything. If you love your partner, you're going to be vulnerable. And this is the challenge for the courageous. If you've ever had your heart broken and chose to love again, you're being courageous. So I help courageous people love better. It's what I do for a living. And I've had my heart broken probably more than most people. And I choose to lean back in. So there you go. It's a challenging thing. Love is never going to be safe. It's the opposite of safety. It's about vulnerability. And if you haven't heard Brene Brown talk about it in her TED Talk, you definitely want to do that. So I'm going to back up to Marley's question here because it's a great question. What about a partner who is not in touch with their feelings. And a lot of people aren't in touch with their feeling because it wasn't safe to be in touch with their feelings. How do you ask them what would make them feel safe? So it starts slow. You start with what I call a locker room talk. You start by watching some of these videos with them and ask them, is this something that they want to do? Do they want to get in touch with their feelings? So if you think about it, if you were in the middle of a football game, you wouldn't go out and go, hey, coach, I have an idea for a new play. Let's try this. See, what you do is in the middle of a game, you play the plays you already know because you're in reaction. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but if you want to set yourself up to win, what you do is watch a video like this with your partner when you're not in reaction and go, what do you want to do next time we're triggered? Would you like to feel safe? Can I lean in? Can you start communicating about it, and you start to set up the pattern, because what you practice in private will get shown in public. So start practicing this. Start practicing it when they're just a little bit triggered. Honey, what do you need to feel safe right now? And recognizing when you feel really triggered. I was driving once with one of my partners over a pass in Colorado, and we were in 4 lanes of traffic, and there was heavy snow. It was one of the early snows in the year, and there were cars spun out all over the road. It really looked like one of those disaster movies. Now, I had spent 18 years in Alaska. My dad had done some car racing. My brother was a race car driver. So I had learned how to drive in tough conditions. I had a 4-wheel drive, and I'm just weaving through traffic. But I am in my reptile brain. My partner touched my hand to kind of reassure me, and I said, no, please don't even touch me right now. I'm totally in my reactive reptile brain, and it's okay. I'm white-knuckled driving through, weaving around all these cars, but I let her know it had nothing to do with her. I was in my reptile brain, and any touch I was going to be reactive. So learning where you are and what you need is really important, and then making a clear request. I made a clear request to her. So hopefully this is starting to make sense. Head, heart, hurt. These we're communicating from. They're 3 very different places, 3 very different languages. Does that make sense? Can you recognize when you're communicating from your head, from your heart, from your hurt? I spent years traveling around the world as a business consultant. There was a lot of head, not much heart, and trying to avoid hurt. Now, as a relationship coach, tons of heart, and you'll notice a lot of head too. I talk to somebody's head, logic, reason. I have the charts, the diagrams, the maps. I can talk to the head, the heart, and I can talk to the hurt. So, I really appreciate that you're still on this call. What it tells me is that your relationship is important to you and you want to get something out of it, that this is not something that you just idly check in and check out of. And I want to tell you what a few people have gotten from working with these tools. And this is from Rick and Sandy from Phoenix. This was years ago, but Paul gave us some simple tools to use the very first session, and we noticed a difference right away. Our relationship has never been better. Our only regret is we didn't find him 25 years ago. My regret is that I didn't have the tools 25 years before I worked with them. I would have liked those tools for myself. This is from a couple in Vermont. After many attempts at couples work with other individuals, working with Paul has finally helped my partner and I break through to a new place of understanding and appreciation for one another. What did they learn? They learned how to communicate better. We had an amazing breakthroughs about empathy and being able to meet each other's needs. I couldn't believe that he was able to help us through our most intense moments, and I have never felt such effective therapy. And I'm just to be clear, I'm not a therapist. I am a relationship coach. And two more. After just 2 hours session with my husband and I were able to use the tools on our very own upsets. And, and this was my accountant. This is someone who's very much in their head. This is a friend of mine who they've been together 25 years, and she started out feeling helpless and alienated in the marriage, wondered if it was over, and used workshop as a last effort. I came away feeling empowered, hopeful, and willing to surrender unconditionally to loving my partner. The future is wide open, and we can choose from awareness, not pain. And so with that, it's really choice point. So what I want to do is I want to ask you, what's your choice? Now, some of you came on here for information. Now, it's interesting. I put in, if you do this, you can do this as soon as you stop here, type in relationship advice. Google at one point, when I checked this months ago, 96 million returns, over 96 million returns on relationship advice. You've never had more info. I don't think you're here for information. I think you're here for something very different. I think you're here for transformation. Now, here are the three options. You can walk away and do nothing, ignore it, and hope that it will go away. Like I did that with my tooth for a long time, and I ended up having to have my tooth pulled because I did the ignore and hope it would fix itself. And by the way, it didn't. Now, you can do it yourself, which is like if I tried to do my own tooth extraction, that would not have gone well. I tried to work on my relationships myself without getting mentored, and it was one divorce, 4 broken engagements. I did the John Wayne gonna figure it out myself method. The third method is do it with a mentor. Get help, learn, and grow. Like anybody that wants to be good at anything, musicians have coaches. The best golfers in the world, like Tiger Woods, he could use a relationship coach, but he's got about 7 different golf coaches to help him improve his game. So if you want to improve your game, get a coach. If you think I could be a coach for you, we'll see if you qualify or not. I only work with people who are really committed to making a difference. It's challenging work. Now, here are a couple of next steps. A lot of you already have joined the Courageous Love Show Facebook group. If you haven't, you can send me a message, arguelesslovemore.com/message. There's 3 messages you can send me. You want to join the Facebook group? I'll give you the link. You want to get a free copy of my $19.97 book? I'll send you a link for that. And if you want to set up a session and find out whether, if and how I can help you, if you want to have a breakthrough in your relationship, send me a note there and I will get back to you and we'll set up a 15-minute session. We'll get clear where you are, where you want to go, what's in the way. And like I said, I work with people all around the world, from India to Australia to Mexico. I do it over Zoom. We work on issues like broken agreements, affairs, lost intimacy, lack of trust, all these different issues. So thank you so much. I'd love to hear, what did you get from today? And by the way, there's where you can send me a message. What did you get from today, and what are you going to do about it? And if there's someone you know out there who you think could get something from this, have them watch the replay. Just in the comments, put their name or forward it to them so that they can watch it. And you might want to watch this a couple of times. All right. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. Leave me your comments. And some of the comments I didn't get to read right now because this goes out to a bunch of different pages. So I will check and see what comments I missed and try to get back to you. All right. Have a great day. Thank you for joining me.